All right, welcome back to the deep dive. This time we're gonna be diving into The Stranger.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, and specifically focusing on the main character Mersault.
Yeah.
Everyone calls him like the outsider,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and we're gonna be exploring how his detached demeanor and all that, like his philosophical reflections, kind of challenge
Yeah.
societal norms
Mm.
and force us to kind of question our own views on guilt and morality and what it all means.
Absolutely. I think The Stranger is a fantastic choice
Yeah.
to explore those themes. It's like one of the quintessential existentialist novels.
Yeah.
It throws us right into those deep questions about
Yeah.
human existence and uses Mersault's experience
Yeah.
to make us think about the ways we search for meaning in a world that
Yeah.
often seems indifferent.
Okay, so right out of the gate, the thing that really got me was his reaction to his mother's death.
Oh,
It's not what you would
Really?
expect at all. It's like he's more focused on the physical sensations of the heat
Yeah.
and his bus ride than on, grieving.
Yeah.
Why do you think?
That's a great point to start with, I
Yeah.
think. Because it really sets the tone for who Mersault is as a character. I mean, it's not necessarily that he doesn't care,
Yeah.
I think,
Right.
but he's observing his own life
Yeah.
and his own feelings from a distance, almost as if he's a
Yeah.
spectator.
Yeah.
And this detachment, this focus on the physical and immediate, that becomes a recurring theme
Yeah.
throughout the novel.
Yeah, and it's almost like he's prioritizing his own like authenticity over conforming to what you're supposed to do, like how you're supposed to grieve.
Exactly.
And it doesn't exactly win him any favors, like especially at the funeral.
Right.
He's like no tears, no interest in seeing his mother's body,
Right.
accepts coffee and a cigarette from the caretaker. It's like he's going against the grain of what's considered, appropriate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the way the other mourners at the vigil, the way they react to him,
Yeah.
it's almost as if they're sensing that something is off about him,
Yeah.
right? That he's not
Yeah.
playing by their rules,
Yeah.
their shared understanding of
Okay.
grief and mourning.
Yeah.
And that sets the stage for the societal judgment he'll face later on.
Absolutely. And then like it's not just at the funeral when Maria's girlfriend proposes, like
Yeah.
he's willing to marry her, but he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't love her.
Right.
It's like he's almost
It's like he's almost detached from
detached from love.
love itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that raises such a fascinating question. Is he incapable
Yeah.
of love? Or is he just unwilling to buy into those social constructs surrounding it?
Oh, okay.
Remember, existentialism emphasizes
Yeah.
individual freedom,
Yeah.
responsibility, choosing your own meaning
Yeah.
in a world that often feels meaningless.
Yeah.
So maybe Mersault is actually rejecting those predefined roles, choosing to exist outside of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this like detached observation continues when he gets involved with
Yes.
Raymond, his neighbor.
Right.
This guy's seeking revenge on his mistress.
Yeah.
Asks Mersault for help, and Mersault, like almost without hesitation, agrees to write this letter for him. It's like
Yeah.
he's drawn into this morally complex situation, but he's not even bothered.
Yeah, that's where Camus starts weeding in the concept of the absurd, which is
Yeah.
so central to understanding Mersault.
Yeah.
Essentially, the absurd is this conflict between
Yeah.
humanity's innate desire to find meaning
Yeah.
and the universe's inherent lack of meaning.
Right.
And Mersault's actions seem to stem
Yes.
from a recognition of that absurdity.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He doesn't judge, he doesn't moralize.
Yeah.
He just participates in life as it unfolds before him,
Yeah.
almost as if he's acknowledging the futility
Yeah.
of imposing meaning
Yeah.
on a meaningless existence.
So it's not about like being malicious
Right.
or uncaring. It's just
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah.
It's more about recognizing that in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
these moral dilemmas might not
Yeah.
matter as much as we think they do.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a very different way of
Yeah.
looking at the world.
Totally. And it all kind of like culminates in this
Right.
pivotal moment on the beach.
Yes.
With the fight between Raymond and the Arabs,
Yeah.
and this intense Algerian sun, and then Mersault shoots a man.
Yeah.
Right.
This is where it all comes to a head. The heat, the tension, the absurdity of
Yeah.
the situation, it just overwhelms him.
Yeah.
His actions, as he describes them,
Yeah.
they aren't driven by hatred. They aren't driven by
Yeah.
premeditation.
Yeah.
They're driven by this
Yeah.
overwhelming sense of the universe's indifference.
Yeah.
He's reacting to the physical sensations the moment itself.
Yeah.
Rather than any grand plan or moral code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we see Meursault living in this world where conventional motives, revenge, passion, don't seem to apply to him.
Yeah.
And this sets up a huge clash
Absolutely.
with how society is going to perceive him.
Exactly. His detachment, while born from his understanding of the absurd, leads to an action that will have very real consequences.
Yeah.
And those consequences are where we'll see just how differently he operates compared to the world around him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and with that gunshot, I mean, the stranger really takes a dramatic turn, right? We move from like Meursault's internal world, his unique perspective, to the external judgment he now faces. It's like society is holding this magnifying glass
to his actions, trying to make sense of something that fundamentally challenges their norms.
It's almost like his detachment, his way of experiencing the world is suddenly the thing that condemns him.
Yeah.
And this really plays out during his imprisonment and his interactions with the legal system.
Precisely. The narrative shifts to his time in prison, where he encounters like a whole new set of rules and expectations.
Yeah.
And remember, he's now being judged by individuals who represent like, you know, societal norms, people who believe in these clear-cut motives and emotional responses that fit their understanding of the world.
And like even his lawyer.
Yes.
It's like he's trying to build a defense, but it feels like he's trying to create a soul for Meursault that isn't there.
Exactly.
You know, like he wants him to show remorse and fit this mold of like a repentant criminal, which just doesn't align with his nature.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that Meursault refuses to play that game.
Yeah.
He could easily, you know, feign emotions he doesn't feel, see the things society expects.
Yeah.
But he remains true to his own experience.
Yeah.
He won't compromise his authenticity, even if it hurts his case.
He's almost like stubbornly...
He's stubbornly resisting the pressure to conform.
And this resistance leads to this deep sense of isolation for him. He describes his cell as a dead end. And his world's just shrinking until it's just him and his thoughts.
And within that confined space, he finds a different kind of freedom. You know, he fills his days with memories, meticulously recalling details of his past life. Even reading a scrap of newspaper over and over. Finding new layers of meaning within those limited words. It's as if he's creating his own world within the confines of that cell. A world where external judgment doesn't matter.
That's a really powerful point. Like, he's not seeking escape through denial.
Exactly.
He's actively engaging with his limited reality.
He is. Absolutely.
And finding his own meaning within it.
Yes.
It's like it speaks to the resilience of the human spirit.
It does. And it connects back to the core of existentialism, right? It's about making choices. Creating meaning. Even in the face of absurdity. And you know, Meursault's coping mechanisms in prison, it's not just about passing time. It's about asserting his agency, his freedom to define his own experience.
But even in this, like, self-created world of his, the outside world keeps intruding. He's brought before the examining magistrate who, unlike the lawyer, seems determined to expose his lack of remorse.
This is where the clash between his worldview and society's expectations becomes so apparent. The magistrate, a devout Christian, tries to elicit this confession, a display of guilt that aligns with his understanding of morality. He even brandishes a crucifix, hoping to trigger some kind of emotional response.
That imagery is so powerful. It represents like everything he's rejecting. Like this idea that there's a preordained meaning, a higher power dictating right and wrong.
And Meursault's response is fascinating.
You
know, he sticks to his truth. The heat, the blinding sun, the physical sensations that led to the shooting. And that's an explanation that doesn't fit their narrative of guilt and remorse. And that further solidifies their perception of him as an outsider.
And then, of course, comes the trial. Which almost feels like a spectacle.
It's a performance. Put on for society's benefit.
And he even says, like, I've become a focus of interest. A curiosity to be examined and judged.
It's as if society needs to make an example. for the Mersault, you know. His crime isn't just about the act itself. It's about his defiance of their norms, their expectations. They need to reinforce their belief system to prove that those who deviate will be punished.
And the prosecution really goes for the jugular.
They do.
Bringing up everything from his behavior at his mother's funeral to his acceptance of Marie's proposal as evidence of his coldness and his lack of humanity.
They present him as this inhuman monster. A threat to their order. It's a powerful rhetorical strategy. Preying on people's fear of the unknown. Of those who don't fit in.
And even in this like high stakes environment, his own lawyer is trying to create a narrative that doesn't ring true for him.
Exactly.
Like he's painting him as a victim of circumstance, a good boy who just happened to snap.
But this strategy backfires. Mersault recognizes that this manufactured narrative isn't him. You know, he sees how his intelligence, his thoughtful nature is twisted into evidence against him. And he's becoming even more alienated from the process, realizing that he has no control over how he's perceived.
And it's the prosecutor's closing argument that truly seals his fate. He so cleverly compares Mersault's case to an upcoming trial of a man accused of parricide. Making his lack of remorse seem even more monstrous.
It's a masterclass in manipulation, juxtaposing the two cases. He successfully positions Mersault as the greater evil, further alienating him from the jury and ensuring a guilty verdict.
And it's in this moment, facing this overwhelming judgment, that Mersault has this like startling realization. He recognizes his own guilt. But not for killing the Arab, but for not playing the game, for not conforming to their expectations of grief and remorse.
It's a crucial moment of self-awareness. You know, he understands that his authenticity, his unwillingness to bend to these societal pressures has ultimately led to his condemnation. It's a tragic realization, and it sets the stage for his final confrontation with society and his own mortality. And so here we have Mersault condemned by society for being true to himself, for refusing to play a role that doesn't feel genuine.
And as he awaits execution, he's visited by the prison chaplain, who represents, in a way, one last attempt by society to impose its meaning onto his life.
The chaplain really embodies that idea of finding solace and meaning through religion, which is a concept that Mersault has consistently rejected
throughout the entire story.
With the story, It's almost as if society, even in the face of his imminent death, can't accept that someone might not find comfort in their established systems of belief.
And true to form, Mersault doesn't much.
He doesn't.
He engages in this like incredibly powerful debate with the chaplain.
It does.
Challenging the very foundations of faith and morality.
It's like he's finally found his voice, you know? Not just observing the world, but actively engaging.
Even if it's going nowhere.
Even if it's a dialogue that leads to nowhere.
It really highlights like the core of existentialism, like that freedom to choose your own beliefs.
Your own beliefs, even in the face of death.
Even in the face of death.
Mersault refuses to compromise his own truth. His own understanding of the world.
Even when offered this like seemingly easier path, it's incredible.
And it's in that refusal that he achieves this kind of liberation. You know, he embraces the benign indifference of the universe, finding peace in this understanding that life is inherently meaningless, that we are all destined for oblivion.
Which is a bleak outlook.
It can be a bleak outlook for some.
Yeah.
But for Mersault, it's a source of comfort.
Right.
Yeah.
And he says this crazy thing.
Yes.
He wants a large crowd at his execution.
He does.
And he wants them to greet him with howls of execration.
Yes.
I mean...
It seems so counterintuitive,
right? Why would he want that?
Yeah, I think it's this final act of defiance. A way of confronting society one last time. You know, he's not seeking forgiveness or understanding. He's demanding acknowledgement, forcing them to see him, even if it's through their hatred.
It's like he's saying, you condemned me for my authenticity. for living outside your rules.
Yes.
So now I'll give you a spectacle,
Yeah.
a true representation of your own judgment.
It's a powerful and unsettling way to end the story.
Yeah.
And I think that's the brilliance of The Stranger.
Yeah.
It leaves us with more questions than answers.
Totally.
Why does he desire such a hostile reaction?
Yeah.
What does it say about his understanding of his place in the world?
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, how does it make us, the readers, feel?
So as we wrap up our deep dive into The Stranger, I'm thinking about Mersault's journey, his detachment, his authenticity, and his ultimate confrontation with society's judgment.
Right.
What resonates most with you?
For me, it's a reminder that there's no one right way to experience the world.
Yeah.
Mersault's story encourages us to question our own assumptions about guilt, morality, and meaning.
Yeah.
It challenges us to consider what it truly means to be free individuals in a society that often demands conformity.
And maybe it prompts us to ask ourselves, are we living authentically? Or are we just playing a role?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's something for all of us to think about as
Definitely.
we navigate our own complex world.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Yes.
Keep diving deep.
Keep diving